Welcome to the Deepak Saini Show.
He said he gon' huff and puff and blow my mind up. You meet an island girl, she might Jxxiii wind up.
Welcome to the Deepak Saini Show. I'd like to thank Jxxiii for the intro music. You can find a link to her music in the show description. My guest today is Kelly Wagner. She's the owner of Edge Magazine and the Edge Media platform, which curiously explores the evolution of human consciousness and holistic living. Kelly is also an incredible, gifted psychic medium, Reiki practitioner, and channeler, and works energetically with Ancestral and Other Lifetimes. Kelly has learned to use her unique set of tools in new ways. With gifts in ADC, which stands for after-death communication, Kelly is able to assist with both past and present issues, whether it's energetic healing of their ancestry, current relationships, business marketing strategy, or planning the next step. Kelly's known for asking out loud questions most only think in the pursuit of truth. She dials in and sees an illuminated yellow brick road that shows Kelly the path her clients should follow to fill their goals and live their optimal life. Kelly can be heard on a radio show, Being Curious with Kelly and Brian, and we might have Brian on at a later time in another episode. Kelly, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here today.
Absolutely, absolutely. So there was a lot there just in the bio. I'm going to have a few questions there.
Yep.
But what I always like to start with, and again, we have a very diverse audience, and I always find even with my own story, like how I got to doing what I am now from what I started with, what I went to school with. But I always like to ask my guests, how did you fall into this? How did you get to doing what you're doing?
Oh gosh, absolutely. This is a good one. Okay, so I realized with my own yellow brick road that I see for clients that I work with, and we can talk a little bit more about the yellow brick road. I've had my own journey. So I grew up in a entrepreneurial family. My father made medical equipment, right? And he was the design shop.
Was he like an inventor? Like he's an inventor?
I would call my dad an inventor,
Okay, cool.
a self-taught engineer, a metallurgist. He's someone that it's interesting the talk these days about the Titan and going to the Titanic. And I found myself last night watching National Geographic on the Titanic and the sinking, just revisiting that. And I always said that if my father was on that, while everyone was panicking, my dad would have been into some of the rooms dismantling beds to make sure that he could have this, and this, and he would have made his own life raft for his family and friends. Right. So that's my dad. He's a gifted MacGyver entrepreneur. So I grew up with that. I also, with that, growing up in that mindset, you only can eat what you kill. So there was never a safety net. It was always, if the phone rings, pick it up and how can we help people? And it's always in service and always, again, that entrepreneurial spirit. I went to the University of Minnesota as a triple major, and it was mass communication and electronic media back in the 90s, right? Minoring in film and American Sign Language. I was fluent in sign language at that time. It's now disappearing. I sold advertising for a local newspaper when I wanted to go work at an ad agency. Oh goodness, it just froze up, but we're just going to keep going.
Yeah, I can hear you, no problem. I'm
like, oh goodness, that's a fun position to be frozen in. And then I worked for Best Buy in promotions and events, and then I worked for my father for 17 years in healthcare, industrial banking, became a VP of marketing, and then was in the dairy industry before I landed into this position as the publisher of the Edge magazine.
Sorry, what did you do in the dairy industry? Marketing or?
Marketing. And I was in aseptic sampling. So that is for milk quality and butter fat, you've got to basically prove what you're doing and what the product that you're producing. But then also in the
you weren't a taste tester, were you? Like,
I was not a taste
this is good
tester.
butter. This is good butter. No, okay.
but there are systems in place to assure that. And it was a really interesting industry, and I was not finding my words. I can market anything. I can sell anything. I am very much like my father that way. And I was struggling. And then during that time, this was COVID. So we saw the opportunity for the Edge that was up for sale. I talked to my mentor and she's like, you should go for it. So we basically went on the mountain and jumped off the cliff. I mean, that's really what we did. And that's why we're here. And all of these beautiful, even it's almost like a lazy river, all of these different stops that we took really helped us to bring us today. My partner is my husband, and he's a graphic designer, web designer. So he makes everything look beautiful. And that's his job in this crazy world that we're in. And that's kind of how we got here.
Okay. So before we get to the edge,
Mhm.
where in that, maybe let's go back, the yellow brick road. Let's start there. What was your yellow brick road, and maybe high level, like what does that look like for a typical
For a client?
Yeah.
Absolutely. So if a client asks me a question, so I have a lot of personal clients that I work with, and it's interesting. The business that I have is You've Got Kelly, because I use all of these different tips and abilities that I have for my clients. So I left sales and marketing, so I can help with that. I can look at a P&L. I can help with the business plan. But I also am really good I've been married for 27 years, and in a 27-year span, you definitely have a lot of highs and lows, and you've been through a lot, right? So I bring a lot of my world experience to working with my clients. I also happen to be a psychic medium, so I can dial in with that. And before I really came out as a psychic medium, I was using my intuition in my marketing. So that's where my yellow brick road started, where we would be mapping out plans and marketing strategies, and I would just see this glowing yellow brick road. In the world of intuition, a lot of people have different gifts and abilities, and how the information comes to them. I'm a knower, and I also see pictures. So there's the yellow brick road. So if someone asks me something on it, I will see the yellow brick road, and it'll either be vibrantly glowing or it'll be kind of dim. Sometimes it'll be straight, and other times there'll be little off ramps. And then what we can do in a session is we go into the off ramp, because sometimes you need to take the off ramp to get back on the road, right? And then we can go in and look at what that off ramp and what that discovery is and what needs to be learned. So then you can get back onto the road. And then normally after we go to that off ramp and we revisit the yellow brick road, the road will be glowing vibrantly again. Sometimes it looks like vibrant, like Tron, the video game, where everything's just really vibrant, or it's kind of soft and dull. So it's just a guide for me.
So Kelly, I've never interviewed, but heard interviews of other intuitives and very energetically coherent people, etc. And so what I'm hearing you say is like you literally see the road or a vision. Is that how it kind of comes to you? I think you kind of said this, like, is it pictures? Is it like more of a aura? And for those who are only listening on audio, I'm kind of doing like a round circle with my hands here. But like, is that how it kind of comes to you? Sort of pictures and literally like a road?
It is. And I also describe it like, and you go on your tablet or your iPad and your touch screen, and you go in and you can kind of zoom in on something. Now it's more, that's how it used to look for me. Now it's almost look like I have AI goggles on. So I can look in and we can ask a question, and then I can look around 360 on what clues that I might get. For example, I was being interviewed yesterday for a podcast, and the interviewer's grandmother was coming through. Now I'm at the Pride Festival in Minneapolis, so there's a lot going on around me, and all she wanted to share with this interviewer is a shawl. She wanted to wrap him in a shawl that she was very clearly that she knitted, and a comb. Her hair was up in a bun, and she had a comb that had a pearl on it. And she wanted me to tell that she put her hair up with a comb and that it had a pearl on it. And the interviewer started to just start crying because he knew the comb and the pearl. And he's like, that's my grandmother. Like, yep. So that's a really good snapshot of just having those knowings and utilizing the pictures with the knowing.
Got it. Let me just ask a clarifying question. So,
of course,
when people come to you, because you have, I said it in the bio, and we've touched on a few of these things, but when people come, are they coming for marketing direction, and then you bring in all these other tools? Maybe they're blocked because of some past life stuff or something like that, or are people coming for past life and then like, oh, by the way, here's some marketing? Like, what are people typically coming to you for?
Oh, I love it. That's why I had a problem with what to name the company that I was starting, because it's You've Got Kelly. So I have both. I have marketing clients that we use intuition with. And then I also have personal clients that would like a psychic reading, life advice, work on past life, or simultaneous or current issues. Some of my clients are having current issues and roadblocks, and when I dial in, I see it's something that happened to them in childhood, and then we go in and we talk to their inner child. There's a lot of I don't want to say information coming out about inner child work. It's really fascinating on what happens to us in our younger years and how they impact us now. And maybe we didn't have a learning, or we had a learning that we didn't address, or there's something that we need to go back and revisit and deal with and address.
Yeah, absolutely.
I know. I just opened up Pandora's box.
No. I'll just say this. So, people, I don't think I've shared this on the podcast, but I've certainly shared it on my blog and my website, everything. But, last year, almost a year ago now, I did a lot of personal development work and a lot of, childhood things that my parents came up on. I'll just leave it at that for now. I've already shared that before, but I certainly believe there's a lot of, and I see that with my clients too. Quite often it's things, unresolved issues with, that happen during childhood, often with parents that are at the root of their health issues in my particular sense. So that's super interesting. So before I do want to get back to the edge and what that's all about, but just one last question on this thing. So when did you realize you had this gift? That was it you're a teenager, later in life, 5 years old?
I always had a gut instinct on events. I was one of those girls that would talk to herself all the time. Now I realized it was my team, that I was my angels, whatever you want to call it. I don't like to label anything. I'm the person that people would, complete strangers would cross the street and tell me their life story, like in 2 minutes of no. I do now carry Kleenex with me, because that's just the interaction that I have with fellow humans. But what I did do is about 20 years ago, I was getting my hair done, and the beautiful lady that was doing my hair was like, "You need to meet my psychic Marine. You need to meet my psychic." I'm like, okay. So I curiously went to have a session with Maureen Higgins of Wings of Freedom, who is my mentor. And I really went to speak to my grandmother. Like that's what I wanted to do. I just wanted to talk to my grandmother. And she starts talking about past lives. And I had a wife that was waiting for me to meet with Maureen and actually have this session. And then she did energy work and Reiki on me, and we released this past life. And I'm just sitting here going like, what is going on here? And this lady is like talking to all these spirits, and I'm just like, this is crazy. And then I went, I just want to talk to my grandma. Like really, just really cut and dry. I just want to talk to my grandma. I spoke with my grandma, and I was like, well, that was fun. And really had no intention to ever go back. That was like, oh, that was an interesting experience. And then I walked out to my car, and I feel like what I just said was Pandora's box was opened, and it was like this flood of all of these knowings. And well, what about this? And what about that? And this quest to learn. And I now see it as, I was going to say sharpening my tools, but now it's Mary Poppins carpet bag. That's really what I feel like I have. And a lot of people have it. It's just opening it up and going, oh, what's in there? And different training. So then you just lean in, and then you practice and you play. A lot of it is just playing, and it's using your intuition, and it's talking to your guides, angels, whatever you want to call them, and just going, okay, what am I supposed to do today? And asking for optimal outcomes and asking for guidance, because all we are is I'm just a vessel to help. I'm just a channel. I just let the information flow in, and I'm honored to be in service. That's truly what it is that ego, because so many people get ego. And when you start getting these gifts coming in, I can't believe I'm admitting this, but I am, you start to get a little bit of ego. Like, this is cool. This is cool. But you have to really just knock that down and just be in service. And and then there's also a sense of responsibility, and and where the industry that I'm a part of, and the community that I'm part of, there's a lot of people that are naysayers, and and it's earned in every single industry. There's good doctors and bad doctors. There's
Absolutely.
good police. There's bad police. There's this full spectrum. And sometimes people take advantage of their position and their role. And that is absolutely unacceptable in my world. And I will tell clients, I see a red X. If I see a red X, even though they're paying me to get information, if I see a red X, I will clearly, instead of making it up and going, oh yeah, you're going to be fine, all is good, I will stop and say, we're not supposed to know anything right now. And we're not supposed to get information on this, or I'm seeing a red X. But what I will do for my clients in a situation with an ask that I see a red X, like AI, I will try to go and get different approaches to it. But if I keep seeing a red X, or not getting information, we pause the conversation and go somewhere else, because we're just not supposed to know.
Absolutely.
That was a long answer to a quick question.
No worries at all. Just as a fun fact for everyone, to the time we're recording here, just 10 days ago, I tried VR at my sister-in-law's house. My nieces and my nephews, they're gaming there for the first time, and man, I have to say that was pretty fun. So just throw that out. Fun fact: Deepak finally tried VR in 2023. Finally,
Yeah.
You brought up something interesting. I never would have. I guess I never put these two pieces of information together. So being a medium and a channeler, etc. So I'm not an overly religious person at all, but my dad is Hindu, and and I certainly grew up with some of those, and my mom's Catholic, so put those two together, right?
Wow, I want to interview you.
But well, maybe, yeah, absolutely, we can flip it around one day. But anyway, point being is that not overly religious in either one, follow a lot of traditions, but in the Hindu tradition of reincarnation and others, the reincarnation, I never really put together with past lives and that sort of thing. And it's like, just when you're saying that, and I don't even know where I'm going. This is not a question. It's just something I'm
keep going. You're onto something.
Just something I'm blurting out. Is like, there's obviously there's a match there, and obviously not all religions believe that. But the way I look at it, and I heard this first from Dave Asprey, so I'll give him credit, is that there's no reason not to believe in reincarnation, because if you're wrong, who cares? You're dead. It doesn't matter anyway. And if you're right, then you've lived a better life, right? And you've done, or you made decisions to impact that, hopefully for the good, type of thing. So anyway, I don't know where I was going with this. I just
love it.
I thought it was just interesting that Hinduism or the concept of reincarnation, let's just call it that, because it's in other religions as well, and that's the tying to past lives and what you do and type of thing. So I don't know, just for some reason sometimes these pieces of information just come together for me, and this is one of those times. So yeah.
Well, it's when people talk about deja vu, or the backing it up. And again, I'm not going to get religious, because I honor all religions. I really, really do. Right. I just I honor it. If that's a community or a group of people that you resonate with, and you share values and morals and code and experiences, and that resonates with you, so be it. The Bible, a great book. Right? Do unto others, like, beautiful. I'm sorry, I'm not very well versed. I apologized. I was raised.
No need to apologize.
Right? I would. The Quran could be. I mean, like, there's just all of these beautiful, I think, foundations of religion that are amazing, and I think it's unfortunate that religion has caused so much X, just insert X, into the world as we know it, right? And that people are not allowed to, or they feel like they're not allowed to just sit at the table and collaborate and talk. Because I think once you curiously explore other religions and other thought processes, even politics, like anything, and you can actually curiously come to the table with someone and say, tell me more, rather than just, these are my beliefs, this is right, you are wrong. If people just wiggled a little bit and they're just like, okay, you are Republican, why are you Republican? You're a Democrat, why are you a Democrat? In the US, having that understanding, the COVID, vaccinated, non-vaccinated, the different beliefs that we have with each other. It's like, okay, if you truly believe that everybody's really trying to be a good person and lead in a beautiful way, and they might go left and you might go right. It's how do we hold space for each other, and even agree to disagree, I guess, is the best way to describe it. And I think we need to do that more as a society as a whole.
I agree. I think there's too much. We need more agree to disagree, as opposed to no, you're wrong. Like that's not an appropriate response. It's just someone thinks different than you. Have a conversation, and then if be respectful in that conversation, and then if it doesn't, if it's is what it is, then agree to disagree. But unfortunately, we don't have that. Seems like very much anymore in our society.
It's a struggle, and that's
Yeah.
something that Brian and I really try to do with the show, is lead with curiosity. And I truly believe when you're curious, people will open up and you listen. Curiosity, ask a question and listen. If you do that, you'd be shocked. I mean, this is what you do. You ask,
Absolutely.
right?
I like to say this all the time. And it's not original to me. It was like, you have 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. Listen twice as much as you talk. Right? Ask questions and listen.
Right.
So Kelly, you brought perfect segue. So tell me about let's start with the magazine. What is Edge magazine?
Edge magazine, and oh my goodness, they're back there. I always have an Edge magazine on me, and I don't right now, which is just horrible on every single level. It is a holistic health and wellness magazine. It's 32 years old, started by Gary Beckman back in the 90s. Do the math of 30 years. And it was a really great hub for holistic health and wellness. But then let's just go a little bit of the woo. So working with the different modalities of numerology and astrology and galactic brothers and sisters and the pagan community. So it was really bringing all of these, I would say, unconventional modalities and mindsets together in a magazine. And what we've started to do is we brought it back 2 years ago, and every cover is a channeled piece of artwork that has a different topic. Our last one was curiosity. And again, I cleaned my desk and I can't find them. Oh, hold on. I'm like, I can't be here and not talk about my magazine. So this month was curiosity. So we had this beautiful artist, Randy Hoyt, channel what she thought was curiosity. And at the beginning of the magazine, we bring thought leaders together and have them give their take on the topic of the month. And then we have different contributors. And what we're trying to do is just bring a bunch of different thought leaders together, again, in these modalities that might be perceived unconventional, and just talk about a different topic and share their wisdom. And again, create curiosity. For example, we have Carol Hyder, that is an expert on feng shui and energy. If you're not interested in it, you won't read the article, but there's something to be said. And worldwide, there's a philosophy on feng shui. And when we actually moved 2 years ago, our realtor actually was an astrological feng shui expert. So we not only worked on energetically with our home, that we were selling, but then also the home that we are coming into. And there's a lot of just different things that you can do to create this beautiful energetic space. And it's colors, it's where to put water. There's just all these different things that you can do. And I'm not going to do a deep dive on feng shui,
Absolutely.
but there's a beautiful component to feng shui. And these different modalities that we play with, we bring them all together in the magazine. And in the middle, where a lot of people was our directory, and our directory is in print and online. And we put our lawyers and our chiropractors and our acupuncturists next to our sound healers. Everybody's together. Everybody's a tool in the toolbox, and we share that space. And then in the back of our magazines, where we get a little woo with our paranormal and just some of our different modalities. So we really kind of start in one way and bring people into a different flow and direction throughout the whole magazine.
So Kelly, you said, you used the word woo a couple times,
Mm-hmm.
and alternative, I think you used, if I'm not mistaken. So, some of the things that would have been considered, let's call it ancient modalities or ancient traditions, right?
I like that.
And and then some people, then they got labeled all that, your grandma's story, old wives' tales, et cetera, et cetera. And now science has proven many of these things to actually be true, that we've been doing as humans for 10,000 years or whatever. So my question is, I have to admit, I have not read a single episode of the magazine, but is there the magazine where it's again, to use this term, the woo, the alternative, and it was like, actually, this is pretty mainstream, and MDs and blah, blah, blah are now using, because that's what I see a lot of that in my community and, my colleagues and friends where, they're bringing in some of the, if you want to call it ancient, you want to call it Eastern, you want to call it
Eastern,
woo,
Western, like,
they're
right?
putting
Yeah.
it together. Yeah. Does the magazine have some of that as well?
Absolutely, right? Absolutely, on every single level. So we have a crystals column where we pick a crystals of the month. It's called the Crystal Chicks. And it's interesting if people are looking into crystal. There's crystal healing. I mean, I wear crystals. There's a lot of different things that you can do with those types of those modalities, but then also energy work. Energy work is I think it's ancient. It's absolutely an ancient tradition that we're rediscovering. And I respect Western doctors that are open to different modalities. For example, I have my Western doctor, I have my OBGYN, but then I also see my functional medicine doctor, chiropractor every 6 weeks. And just 2 months ago, I was about to have my yearly checkup with my Western doctor, and I went in for the labs and I did everything that she wanted to do, but she really did not want to do a remote session. And I looked at her, and the physicals that you get that I find in the Western doctor, I mean, they just basically do, you stick your tongue out, it's your eyes, your ears, it's all that stuff. Well, my functional medicine doctor that I see every 6 weeks does muscle testing and checks my body. And he starts at the top and he goes to the bottom. I think it's far more thorough than any physical I've ever had with my Western doctor. And she wanted me to come in, and I forget why I didn't go in, but I didn't. And I'm like, how many of your clients go every 6 weeks to get tune-ups and are taking supplements and are working on whether the food that they eat or the water that they drink, or that those regular tune-ups, rather than just showing up once a year? I also I'm of the age, I went and had a mammogram. Well, what I wanted to do is I did thermography instead. And that is a full body scan, and it's heat. And
I wish that would get, sorry to interrupt, I wish that would get more traction.
Absolutely. Southern Minnesota thermography, Abby, it's just amazing. So I went and had it, and I had a full body one. And and sometimes they're saying that you can get signs and symptoms 10 years before it would show up on any other Western test. So I went and had the thermography, but then I was like, I might as well go get the mammogram just to do that. And the mammogram technician actually laughed at me. Why did you spend the money on a thermography instead of just doing the mammogram? And I looked at her and I went, I wasn't going to start rolling. And then she asked me what I did. And I said, well, I have a holistic health and wellness magazine. And she was like, oh. And it was just interesting, the mindset when you come in educated and you bring your Western and Eastern, whatever you want to call it, philosophy, ancient traditions, and you bring it into harmonizing in your overall health and wellness of your mind, body, and spirit. People do say that we have, going back to our inner child work, things happen to us and emotionally, and it causes disease if you don't deal with it. And if you think about it, it makes sense. If you break your foot, but you don't deal with the fact of how you broke it and what could this mean, and maybe it was something that you needed to slow down, and you just deal with the physical aspect, but you don't deal with the emotional aspect, are you really healed? I don't know.
I couldn't agree with you more. And I like what you said earlier about, and I'm the same way. It's like, I have the most respect for Western trained doctors who then have additional tools in their toolkit, whether it be functional medicine, Eastern practices, Ayurvedic, Chinese traditional, whatever the case, it doesn't matter. They have a more complete picture. Now, nobody's perfect, but they have a more complete picture. And we don't have to talk about the current Western medical system, though. We'll save that for another day. So, okay. So thank you for explaining the magazine. So you mentioned the show. Or I mentioned it in the intro. So tell me about the Being Curious show. What's, besides what the title implies, but.
Oh, no, it's great. So, well, and it's the ability for us to really go full spectrum with it. So Brian Mariani, my co-host, and he is business, and his father started the Center for Functional Nutrition back, I want to say, in the late 70s, early 80s. So he comes from a really holistic health and wellness approach. And then I have marketing and business and the woo approach. And I say the woo and I've mentioned it a couple times. It's a term that society can understand. I'm going to start using your ancient traditions. I love that, and that's definitely the modality that I play with. And we were talking one day, and we were having these great conversations, and I start channeling in the middle of our conversation and saying, "Well, it's kind of like you're in here, and you're in this camel," and we just started going down this discussion, and it was so spot on with what he was dealing with in his life. And we just really at the same time said, I wonder if people would want to hear some of the conversations that we're having. And then I had the ability to work with a media firm and a radio station. And I really went in to speak with them at just, how do we partner together? You have radio, I have print. How do we harmonize together? And the owner said, you need your own radio show. And I just backed up after Brian and I had just had this discussion. And it took me 6 months to sign the contract because I had my own limiting beliefs and my fear. And I was like, oh, how am I ever going to get a guest? And where do we look for guests? And what do we talk about? And how do we go to commercial? I mean, it was just all of these weird little fear. And what's interesting is I've been told for years I should have my own radio show. I should have my own YouTube channel because of all the different things that happened to me. Again, when complete strangers will cross the side of the road to tell me their life story. That's great radio. Like, I now realize that now. And we bring in full spectrum guests from people that have been human trafficked. We've had 2 of those on our shows, and not always leading with that. And they just start opening up and share with us, to psychic mediums, to business, to authors. And I mean, everything in between. It's such a beautiful context to be able to invite people and ask them what they're curious about, because we can go all over the place. We really, really can. And then to find out, when you start talking with some of these thought leaders, they might say, and I go to this and I bring a rose quartz, or when I saw a psychic, or I did this, or I did that. I mean, kings and queens and presidents. I'm sorry, I'm officing from home today. A lot of councils have an intuitive in their inner circle. They just don't promote it. It's kind of the person in the background that nobody sees, but they trust it. They trust astrology. They trust numerology. There's all these beautiful tools, and to just bring them in. So we talk to them, and it's fascinating. And 48 minutes with us goes by really fast.
Yeah, super awesome. I'll have to start listening to some episodes for sure. It's interesting. We don't need to dwell on this, and I do want to get this wrapped up here with the last couple of questions. But I have just come to learn. I'm still learning, but I have some people in my circle who are very into. I'm not even maybe using the right terms. So let's call it numerology and lunar cycles and all that sort of thing, as far as like, playing the stock market and things like that. And it's shown like complete, like, I don't say 100% predictable, but like, within days of like corrections, crashes, etc. I was like, I don't have time to go down that rabbit hole, but it's very interesting. It's very interesting. Some of the stuff that I'm seeing. So anyway, I just thought I'd throw that out there.
No, I love it. If you talk to an emergency room doctor or nurse, they will always ask, is it a full moon? Because babies are born, accidents happen. Yeah. There is just, we as a society we're dialed into
crime
it.
Is higher, I've heard, during certain cycles. Yeah.
It's just being curious about it. Now, I, of course, in my world, you can imagine I get the full spectrum, and I'll have people like, oh, I can't go outside today. We're in retrograde. And I don't do that. I'll be like, okay, that's cool. I don't even read my daily astrology. I mean, I don't let that guide me with force. I just go food for thought. So knowing your numerology and knowing your astrology and knowing your sign, or I look at it, little feathers in your hat. It's not something that I just rule my world with, and I have fear. Oh gosh, we can't make any decisions right now for the next week because we're in a retrograde. I don't do that. I honor those that do, but it's just not, again, tools in the toolbox.
Absolutely. So Kelly, this is, this podcast is, features guests of all sorts of,
I'm sure,
stripes and everything. And there's no set agenda, but with my background, being in the health and wellness space, I do like to ask, the guests, like, what does your personal health practice look like? Your morning routine, or whatever the case may be. What does that look like for you?
Awesome. So I'm in the process. So I'm just about to do, and actually while we were talking, I'm just about to do a Purium cleanse. It's a 30-day cleanse of just resetting your gut. I did have COVID. I went 2 years ago, and I really heard a lot through the functional medicine doctors and the people that are my peer group that the gut is your second brain,
or
and
your first,
or your first, right? So, and I know I haven't always been perfect with my gut. So I made the decision, and I'm going to journal it for the magazine, of just doing this gut reset. Okay. Daily routine. I'm really trying to go an hour every morning without any technology. And I think that feels really, really good. I put my phone downstairs. We use an old school alarm clock now. My coffee, just to anyone audio, I just showed my coffee cup. It's organic coffee. It's high pH balanced water. I flavor it with Nutridyne's dynamic greens. I put collagen in it, a little bit of cinnamon, a little bit of cacao, a little bit of chaga mushroom, no sweeteners, almond milk. And then I do give myself a little bit of coconut whipped cream just on the top to make it feel like it's fancy in Starbucks. So I love
you saved
that.
$12.
And I saved $12, right? Oh, I went one day, I was thinking about how much my coffee would be at Starbucks, and I think it would be a $35 coffee. I really believe in water. Brian Mariani, I think you should have him on and talk just about water, because water is extremely powerful. I have water with me all the time. I completely stay hydrated on a regular basis. Working from home. So I bought a standing desk. I have a yoga ball that I'm on most of the time. And my husband and I try to walk twice a day, really trying to take calls outside when I can. I'm giving like all these little tidbits of it's all these little different baby steps.
I'm loving it, because those are all the little habits that aren't a big deal in themselves. And then you stack them all. And I'm all about habit stacking. Then you've really, done a lot for your day.
Absolutely.
For your body and mind, with all those little things. I love all of those.
Chemicals, I use a natural shampoo, natural conditioner, natural soap. Essential oils, what I do for scents around the house rather than candles and perfumes, and we have an air purifier and an ozonator. Something that I did just get turned on to, EMF protectors. So I've always had like Shungite around my computer, but I was just turned on to a company that you put these little EMF protectors on your feet, and they kind of ground you. So I'm all about all the little baby steps that you can do throughout the day. At happy hour, I'm exploring mocktails, and I'm exploring some of the CBD and cannabis drinks, because I think those are fascinating. And then sleep is super. I just interviewed, right? So I've ever since I've really consciously tried to get the sleep. So now we don't, Matthew Dix, I'm not going to say his book right, but we interviewed author Matthew Dix. And he talked about your bedroom is for sleeping and being intimate with your partner, if you have a partner, and that is it. Yeah. And I can't say we still have the TV, but I do not go to bed with TV anymore. I will read. I have a bath routine every night with Epsom salt and essential oils. And that's how I wind myself down. We have our room extremely cold, extremely dark. So, I mean, I'm really trying to do that. And ever since
you're doing almost everything right there, Kelly, or everything right. That's awesome. I love it. This is the best answer thus far, the most complete answer from any guest this far. I love it.
Right. But then, and after I've started to do this, like right now, if I drove by a McDonald's, I'm not interested at all.
Just makes me want to
right.
gag.
It just makes you right. So it's just making better choices. When you go out, I eat fish. I've eliminated pork out of my diet because I've heard from one of my peers that pork can cause cancer in all blood types. So it's like, okay, I would love to be a vegetarian in my mind, but there's just something beautiful about meat. So it's making those choices. I also say thank you. When I eat anything or drink anything, but just baby just breathe. Into breath work. I try to
Breathe
take 10
properly,
minutes
yeah.
every day. Like it's just all of these little things all at once. And my body is not perfect, but I know my body and my skin and everything's been really resonating ever since I've started to do that. And now I'm curious about what this 30-day Purium cleanse is going to do.
Awesome. Yeah, I can't wait to hear about that as well. So, I wanted to just let all the listeners know that there's a gift that Kelly and the magazine is offering to everyone. We'll put the link in the show notes, but it's a free 1-year subscription to Edge Magazine. Sorry, just for US residents only. But
it's the shipping, you guys. It's the shipping.
I know. We didn't even talk about this. I'm up here in Canada, and the shipping just like sometimes it's like it's just not worth it. The shipping is like as much as like the thing. And I'm just like,
I know.
I'm like, forget it. So, but anyway, Kelly.
And where in Canada are you?
I live in Alberta, west of Calgary, and the kind of the foothills of the Canadian Rockies.
Beautiful, beautiful country.
Although I do have to admit, I ordered some stuff on Amazon on Friday, and it came yesterday. I'm like, that's the fastest Amazon order I've ever gotten, like 2 days. And I'm not even a Prime member. I'm like, what's going on? But anyway, so yeah, thank you, Kelly, for that for our U.S. Residents or U.S. Listeners. Any last words of wisdom or golden nugget for the audience today?
Be curious. No, there's two sides to every story and every situation in life. Check out edgemagazine.net and be kind to yourself and others. I know that sounds really general and really hippy dippy, but it's so true.
I know. I think that's perfect. I think more people need to be kind to themselves. How much of the world, we don't have time to get into this now, but how much of the world's problems are just because people are not kind to themselves, and then that manifests outwards towards others. Right. So thank you very much, Kelly, for being on the show today. I'm going to throw it back to Jxxiii to guide us out with some music. Thanks for listening to the Deepak Saini Show. Exceptional results for the exceptional you.
Podcast produced by the Minted Green Company,